Each of us has a sacred obligation to act reasonably in our relationships with others, to do for them what we would wish them to do for us, to be considerate, to be reasonable. At the core of every civilized legal system is the reasonable person doctrine that obligates judges to decide cases based on what a reasonable person would do, what every reasonable person should do. The result is a body of law we call our common law, the sum total of past court decisions in which common sense was applied to a set of facts to decide who should win. Common law is common sense for the common man. Common law is not decided by legislatures or agencies, but by judges who are obligated to apply common sense to their decisions. Common law outweighs statutes and rules of legislatures and agencies. Common law is the highest law of the land. Judges decide what's right or wrong based on their personal view of common sense and what's reasonable. That is how civilized legal systems were designed to work. Legislatures and agencies would create statutes and rules, and judges would use their common sense and the reasonableness test when deciding how our laws would be applied to contests between individuals. That's how it used to work, before common sense and the reasonable person concept were displaced by political bias in our courts and the mistaken idea that what's good for us individuals must be measured in terms of what's good for society in general, or what's good for some segment of the population. Too often, common sense and the reasonable person standard are tossed out of the window of our highest courts in favor of a modernist view that relegates the rights of the common man to the perceived economic or political welfare of a collective, such as a race or other distinguishable faction of the population. Political correctness counteracts common sense on the pretext that the needs of a group supersede the reasonable rights of individuals. Common law should be common sense for the common man. It used to be. Most decisions of our highest courts obeyed the common sense rule and considered the reasonable man or woman as an individual with inherent rights, not as part of an imagined collective, until the 20th century, when mass carnage of technological warfare and threat of global nuclear holocaust caused legal scholars and judges to demote individual rights to the demands of collectives aimed at an engineered society submitted to a worldview where human rights are considered only in terms of what's best for the masses. This trend is unseen and therefore unknown to people who have not read and understood how this gradual change has accelerated in recent years as cases decided by our highest courts become increasingly infected with political influence and social engineering agenda that displaces common sense and the sacred rights of us reasonable individuals. The common law of nations should obey common sense and respect the reality that what's good for society must first of all be good for each of us, each and every one of us, without regard to political agendas or the self-interested demands of any particular composite group of us. The common law, the controlling decisions of our highest courts, should be, above all, reasonable, governed by common sense, putting the sacred rights of individuals ahead of private political opinions and worldviews of modernist judges and secular law professors. No law is reasonable that ignores the sacred rights of individuals who act reasonably. To believe otherwise flies in the face of common sense and undermines society by ignoring the core purpose of government, to protect each of us from the avarice and violence of others. Common sense should control the common law decisions of our courts. A man who steals a loaf of bread to feed his starving family must suffer under strict statutory law because he is a thief. Yet common law allows judges to rule with empathy and consider the context of a man's actions to apply common sense and reasonableness, so the law serves justice in its truest sense. Imagine common law as an ancient tree, with each new case adding a branch. It is a living system, rooted in the soil of common sense and reaching upward to the ideals of fairness to every human being. But when new branches appear that are no longer rooted in common sense, but grafted in by political intrigue or a modern legal philosophy that ignores individual rights, an adjustment is needed to restore the balance so each of us is treated with equality as individuals. Equity is not equity if one side of the balance is unfairly weighted by a political agenda or social objective. Common sense was once woven into the fabric of legal systems in every civilized nation. Reasonableness was judged by what was fair to every individual, without regard to the ever-changing demands of society's kaleidoscopic concept of morality or the common good. The common law decisions of our highest courts should make common sense, be written in language each of us can understand, and favor none but the individuals whose innocence demands the full protections of law. The common sense of common law is the cornerstone of democratic society, the power that protects you and your loved ones from the dangers of political extremism. We hope this short presentation has convinced you to agree and that the publication of this primary principle is worthy of your participating effort. Thank you.